Hi, and welcome to the next chapter of A Necessary Evil, aka Ned, a short story for self-reflection, creativity, and journaling. At the end of this chapter, you will be given 2 writing prompts based on today's topics. I'm Danielle Palli. Thank you for joining me. Ned, Broon, and the Innocent.
Written by Danielle Palli. Narrated by Danielle Palli and Graham Mack.
Ned was restless. It had been 11 months, 3 weeks, 5 days, 14 hours, 6 minutes, and 3 seconds since his last assignment. The demon's memory began playing tricks on him. As he climbed aboard the SS Tiger headed across the Atlantic, something felt off. He awoke, startled. He rubbed his head and squinted at the hairy, plump little Broon, who was busy polishing the demon's shoes with what appeared to be an expired tube of dry cream.
Having a bad dream?
Broon asked.
I see everything.
Ned winced as the ship's horn moaned pitifully before the large cruise line set sail. His carrot-like frame nestled uncomfortably in a striped deck chair just beneath the loudspeakers that loomed overhead. Broon felt no such discomfort. The elf's 3-foot-tall and 2-foot-wide frame was blanketed head to toe with a tangled mass of thick brown hair that covered everything, including his ears. After he finished polishing his master's boots, the dry cream and polishing cloth magically disappeared somewhere beneath his fur. Ned sniffed the air.
What was that?
He thought. The aroma was a mix of an overheated kitchen appliance, a filthy birdcage, and the explosive smell of something sweet, sticky almost.
Oh, don't tell me.
Hello, a timid voice greeted. A little girl wearing a puffy pale pink dress, her red hair forming a mess of curly rings, smiled up at him. There was a sizable gap between her teeth and 3 tiny freckles on her button nose. Ned sniffed again through his own crow-shaped beak. He used his fingernail to scratch the small horn just behind his left ear.
You can see me?
He asked, surprised. Course I can. I like your dog. The little girl smiled, grabbing 2 tufts of Broon's hair gleefully.
I most certainly am not a dog,
Broon protested. Yet he had a weakness for the innocence of the world and soon broke out into a wide grin. The girl was unaffected by a talking dog.
Humans are not supposed to see me. The Home Office keeps changing the rules.
But I'm not a human, the girl answered. I'm only 6.
You may be a young little human, but you most certainly
He sniffed the air again.
are human.
According to Ned's official Demon Employee Handbook, updated in 1917, humans may, in no uncertain terms, ever witness our presence. It would compromise any mission of bettering the world. For that reason, we have implemented a standard invisibility feature available to all of our demons, effective as of the fall of 1915. Ned wasn't sure if the manual had been updated since then.
What's your name, little girl?
Broon asked. Amelia, she answered, glancing between Ned and Broon. What are you? Amelia finally asked curiously, squinting her nose up at Ned.
Don't you mean who are you?
Ned was offended, though not exactly sure why. I mean what I asked, Amelia answered quietly. Broon fought back a chuckle. Ned the demon was terrible with small children. He didn't understand them at all.
Oh, all right. Ned
relented. He reached into his burnt orange suit jacket and produced a small business card. A necessary evil demon. Amelia wrinkled her nose as she attempted to read the business card in her hand. No small feat for a 6-year-old.
It's a necessary evil, demon. But you can call me Ned.
What does necessary evil, demon mean? Ned sighed.
A necessary evil is the service I provide, and I am a demon. No need to articulate the comma. That's just for punctuation.
Huh? Amelia seemed even more confused.
It's an expression.
Broon intervened.
A necessary evil is when you do something you don't want to do, because it's unpleasant, but it's for your own good.
You mean like going to the dentist? Amelia offered.
Exactly like that.
Broon's eyes lit up. Amelia was a smart human who learned quickly. Or like helping Sister Constance deliver the Rock of Immortality. Amelia cast her eyes toward the deck sorrowfully. Ned translated the girl's mispronunciation.
What do you know about the Rock of Immortality?
He eyed Broon concerned. Broon shrugged his shoulders. He'd heard the legends of the stone. It was Broon who suggested they board the family-friendly cruise ship after gossip from the underworld hinted of its presence among the passengers. While it wasn't an assignment per se, Ned was just desperate enough for something to do that he took it upon himself to find it. After all, he reasoned, in the wrong hands that would be devastating. A being could harness his powers incorrectly and accidentally live forever as a common house cat, or worse, as a power and money-hungry politician who would strive for world domination, murdering anything and anyone that got in their way. He and Broon almost witnessed that before, when a wily basilisk went on the warpath a few centuries back. Just that Sister Constance says, "That rock belongs under the safekeeping of the church," Amelia answered in a practiced way, as if she'd heard Sister Constance repeat this phrase all too often. A crackle of thunder and lightning flashed in a downward motion toward the water surrounding the ship, followed by a boom so loud it shook the deck. Several deck chairs rattled nervously. Broon jumped, shivering like a frightened puppy. After spending nearly 3 centuries as a servant to the demon named Ned, there wasn't much that frightened the short-round fairy elf. Thunderstorms were the exception. They were Broon's second greatest fear. Unlike Broon's siblings, who enjoyed squishing across a wet lawn barefoot with thick mud and the odd earthworm wriggling between their toes, Broon preferred to hide inside with a pair of comfy cotton socks to keep his oversized feet warm, a soft blanket weighted enough to make him feel safe, and a hot cup of berry tea, tart with just a hint of sweetness on his tongue. He always took in the aroma of the tea before each sip, allowing the richness of the lingonberries and warm steam to tickle his nostrils. Broon smiled wistfully to himself as he momentarily forgot where he was. Thunder crackled again, followed by another flash of lightning across the sky. This time the boat shook with a vengeance, and families scrambled to their cabins for safety. Broon shivered, ripped from his momentary reverie. Moments later, an announcement over the loudspeakers.
"This is your captain speaking,"
he said with calm authority.
"For your safety, we are asking all passengers to find their way to their cabins. We are moving away from the storm and expect to be in calmer waters shortly as we reach the port of Tampa. For the time being, the upper deck is closed. Thank you."
"Amelia!" a voice called as the torrent of rain suddenly dropped, as if an angry god turned a large bucket over the world. "I'm here, Sister Constance," the little girl called. She turned to Ned. "Nice to meet you, demon common Ned." To Broon she yelled, "You too, doggy." Broon rolled his eyes, one aggravation at a time. Sister Constance grabbed Amelia's arm forcefully, glancing over her shoulder. "Where did you run off to, young lady?" she chastised. "And who were you talking to?" "A demon and his doggy." "Hush now! I'll not have you making up lies." "I'm not lying," Amelia whined. "Well, then, enough of your imaginary friends." Sister Constance dragged an unhappy Amelia toward the staircase leading to their cabins. "Look at your shoes." She was horrified as she eyed the little girl's black ballet flats with several small rhinestones embedded across the toes, one taking on a bluish-purple hue. Somehow, the nun had missed the fact that Amelia had patches of mud on the hem of her dress, too. "Never mind, we'll get them cleaned up." Ned and Broon retreated to an unknown storage space in the cargo section of the boat, which they conveniently kept hidden. They set up a simple sleep area with 2 cots, 2 armchairs, a small throw rug, an end table, and a deck of cards if they ever got bored. Broon hoisted himself up and sank his small but thick frame into one of the leather chairs and let out a sorrowful sigh.
Why don't I just pop out and get you a nice cup of tea to settle your nerves? Nah,
Broon protested.
I'm supposed to be your servant. Wouldn't do to have it the other way around. We'll make an exception, just this once.
Ned disappeared in a swirl of smoke before Broon could respond. A newspaper appeared on the small table beside Broon's seat. It had today's date on it.
Thanks, Ned,
Broon said into the air. Broon may have been an indentured servant of sorts to Ned, but after centuries of working together, they had become fast friends. As Broon's nerves settled, he heard the thunder grow further distant. The rocking on the boat subsided. Things were going back to normal. "Hi, doggy,"
Amelia?
Broon sat up with a start, his papers falling haphazardly around him.
What are you doing here? More important, how did she find them?
It was then that he noticed the girl had something wriggling under her arm. "Meow." A pitiful white kitten, fur soggy and weighted from the rainwater, protested its fate. "I brought you a present, doggy." Amelia held the soggy kitten up proudly. "I caught him before he was swept overboard." After a long silence, she eyed Broon's face. "Doggy, are you okay? You look as if you've just seen a ghost." And there was Broon's first greatest fear. Kittens. Amelia set the cat down, who wriggled across the dark throw rug, drying himself. Finally, he settled in, moving on to grooming his paws. A suitcase on top of one of the cots caught the young girl's eyes. "What's in there?"
Now, Amelia,
Broon warned.
that don't belong to you.
Her face knotted up, turning a soft shade of pink.
What's happening?
Broon was confused. "Don't yell at me."
But I wasn't. Do what you will. I won't say another word.
Broon retrieved his newspaper and did his best to bury his face in it, ignoring both Amelia and her new feline friend. Ned swirled back into the room, setting a cup of steaming berry tea beside Broon, along with a biscuit. He gazed in horror as a kitty purred at his feet, rubbing its fur on his boot. On the floor, Amelia had strung the individual cards in the card deck out like a train.
What are you doing? Were you rummaging through my suitcase?
He chastised, eyeing its disheveled contents strewn over his small cot. He caught sight of something disturbing. A tiny hourglass with the sands of time nearly empty in Amelia's clumsy little fingers.
You most certainly shouldn't be messing with this.
He snatched the glass from her tiny hand.
Why didn't you stop her? Because when I did, that happened.
Broon pointed. Amelia's face contorted as practiced tears streamed down her chubby cheeks.
You know I can't stand hurting the innocents, even if it's for their own good.
Ned softened gently as he carefully wrapped the hourglass in a cloth and tucked it back into his briefcase.
Amelia, there's no need to cry. However, I must insist you don't rummage through people's things without permission anymore. Okay?
"I was bored," Amelia protested.
That's no excuse. Where are your guardians?
Amelia merely shrugged her shoulders. Just then, a frantic voice could be heard above, at the top of the ladder leading toward the main deck of the ship. "Amelia, where are you?" "Coming, Sister Constance." Amelia stood, wiping away her tears. She wasn't a fan of Sister Constance, having been forced to travel with her for the better part of a week. The feeling was mutual. "Amelia," the voice called again. "Forget about your imaginary friends. Come here this instant." "I gotta go," she whispered. "Bye, kitty." She gave the small kitten, who had now taken its place just inside Ned's open suitcase, a scritch. Ned watched as Amelia found her way to the ladder he hadn't seen before and began climbing. He noticed, absent-mindedly, that her pink dress was now clean, as were her ballet flats with rhinestones on them.
"A note came from the Home Office while you were away,"
Broon said, tugging at a tiny scroll he had buried beneath his fur.
"Felt it tickling under my arm just a moment ago."
He handed it to Ned, who pinched it distastefully. No one wanted a note that had just been under Broon's armpit. He unfolded it and read.
"We regret to inform you that there has been a calculation error in your sands of time. We noticed an anomaly in your heart, causing you to leak emotions. As such, your lifespan is no longer 2,400 years. It's 24 hours. We apologize for any inconvenience this may have caused."
Ned crumpled the note in disbelief. At that moment, he only knew one thing for certain. He had to get his hands on that Rock of Immortality. Fast! It was no longer a nice-to-have or a for the good of humanity. It was the only antidote that could save him now.
"Bad news?"
Broon asked.
"Most definite.
Suddenly, Ned's eyes grew wide.
It's been under my nose the whole time." "What was?"
Broon leaned forward with interest.
"The Rock of Immortality. Sister Constance wasn't looking for it. She was returning it." "I don't follow." "Amelia's rhinestone shoes. One of those stones glistened a hint of blue and purple. I can't believe I missed it. Sister Constance was hiding the stone in plain view." "Seems like an odd thing to give to a little girl,"
Broon reasoned.
"but very cunning. I've got to talk to Amelia and convince her to give me that stone. What should I do?" "Well, doggy,"
Ned joked.
"you might round up some kibble for our new friend."
Broon noticed a soft purring from the suitcase and shivered.
"I promise you, Broon, kitties are mostly harmless." "Mostly?"
Broon was unconvinced.
"Just watch your step, and you'll be fine."
Moments later, Ned swirled his demon form into a ball and resurfaced on deck. Something was happening. He watched in dismay as the last stream of passengers disembarked onto land. They had reached their final destination. He scanned the crowd, but even using his teleportation skills didn't work. There was no sign of Amelia or Sister Constance, not on land and not on the boat. Ned had a sinking feeling as he pulled the tiny hourglass from his pocket. There were a few granules left on the life side. He had 23 hours left. He paced the length of the ship, disheartened. Most humans believe that demons are malevolent, a myth reinforced by some of the greatest spiritual texts ever written and folklore since the beginning of time. But the truth is, demons are misunderstood. Take Ned, for example. Ned is a necessary evil demon sent to put humans through challenging situations for personal growth purposes. They become better and happier people after his lessons. His cousin Webb, W-E-B, is the why even bother demon, sent to teach humanity about the folly of becoming too ambivalent. His best friend D-I-M, or Dim, is the does it matter demon, sent to help the overly dramatic recognize what's truly important in life. Finally, there is his somewhat annoying sister, W-M-N, Whim, Watch Me Now, who inspires leaders to glory. As the original demon, Ned was named A-N-E for unnecessary evil, but one of his recent cases kept calling him Ned, and it sort of stuck. He even had new business cards printed up to reflect his new name. The problem became immediately apparent. Except for his very exuberant and sometimes arrogant sister, W-M-N, who loved to hog the spotlight, most demons were credited for all the bad stuff, while angels got credit for all the good. To Ned, it felt as if demons were the bad parent in a divorce who had to punish, make rules, and be the disciplinarian, while angels got to be the weekend parent or grandparent, who were the spoilers, the fun ones who every kid wanted to be around. Ned sought to dispel these myths. Now it was too late. His only salvation rested in the hands of one 6-year-old little girl named Amelia, and he couldn't find her. And what if he did? Was he to wrestle a single shoe from her little foot? Bribe her with a shiny new pair? All so he could procure the Rock of Immortality? One only useful to a demon such as himself, and who knew how to harness its powers?
Sir.
Broon coughed uncomfortably.
What is it, Broon?
Broon's large eyes glanced furtively from Ned to Amelia and back to Ned.
Amelia, why are you here? Have you been behind me this whole time?
Yes. By my math, you paced back and forth at least 43 times, with me behind you the whole time.
But you should be with your guardian, not with a demon and his servant, not with your imaginary friends.
Fifth or Constance may call you imaginary, but I know better. Ned glanced down at the ugly, thick hiking boots that now adorned Amelia's tiny feet. A shiver passed through him.
What happened to your lovely ballet flats? The ones with the rhinestones in them?
They hurt my feet. 2 sizes too small. They were hand-me-downs. I traded them to another orphan for these. Aren't they lovely? Amelia lifted a heavy foot to show them off.
Indeed,
Ned answered flatly, but as he eyed Amelia's boots, her excited eyes, followed by Broon's hopeful expression, suddenly his world made sense. He could spend the remaining hours of his life chasing immortality, or he could spend his time with 2 entities who had somehow become important to him. The first held no promises. All he had was this moment.
Amelia, what say you, Broon and me, sit on the deck with a nice glass of lemonade and play a game?
What sort of game?
Well, any that you like.
Broon nodded eagerly. And so Ned faced his end of days playing a simple card game with a little orphan named Amelia and an elf servant named Broon.
Not a bad way to spend one's last days.
Ned decided as the boat rocked side to side. He gazed blissfully out to sea. At the end of hours, Ned braced himself, not entirely sure what dying would be like. Amelia tugged at the hem of his button-down poplin shirt. It hung just below his suit jacket. "This just came in from the home office," she said with an oddly adult-like demeanor, handing him a slip of paper. Surprised, Ned accepted the note.
Congratulations. You have passed the recertification test set by the Sands of Time Administration. Agent Amelia has indicated that your compassion and self-sacrifice is an admirable testament to your dedication as a necessary evil. Additionally, after case studies with some 100 million demons, it has come to our attention that the anomaly to your heart, causing you to leak emotions, is a somewhat rare human condition that you have contracted known as empathy. As such, your lifespan is no longer 24 hours. We predict it has increased your life energy to 3,700 years. We apologize for any inconvenience this new information may cause.
Agent?
Ned eyed Amelia curiously. The little girl smiled, a devilish gleam in her eyes. "You may be a necessary evil," she said, "but I am experiencing life in appreciation." She winked. "Sometimes even demons need a little support."
Writing prompts. 1. What is your Rock of Immortality? In other words, write about something you thought was important, only to discover later that it wasn't so important after all. This could include a hard look at your values and beliefs about the world. 2. Broon had a fear of thunderstorms and kittens. What do you fear? Write about a time you overcame a fear in your life. What happened? How did you do it? This concludes Ned, Broon, and the innocent.